Security Check podcast. We've got Alex, also known as GuapoGremlin, on our Discord server. Uh, Alex, you want to give us a short introduction, kind of your history with TCGs and jumping into Digimon?
Certainly. So my background kind of starts, I feel like, with a lot of us from our generation. I played and saw Yu-Gi-Oh! When I was a kid in like '03. I saw the Blue Eyes White Dragon tin. My mom got it for me. My brother got the Dark Magician deck. Um, Played it very casually. We were just kids messing around at home. The GX era was definitely the best in my opinion, other than the Seacrows. I actually started going to a local scene when I was like in high school, playing, that end of 5Ds, beginning of Xyz era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Didn't do it long term. I had too much social anxiety at the time to really be able to flourish in it, but I got a taste of it. And then, other than that, post COVID is where I really started to try to find some actual hobbies. My best friend actually got me into Digimon. He just bought one of those EX1 gift boxes and the Mastamon starter deck. And I was like, these cards are sick. I remember seeing a creator, Kodak, talking about it right after COVID. And he opened like the yellow starter deck. And so my friend got it, and I'd been peeking around the card section, and I saw it up there, and I saw the blue and green Imperial deck, and I knew nothing about it, but I was like, it keeps staring at it. It's getting my interest. And my friend convinced me to get one. And so I bought it. And then a week later, we joined a Discord group together for a local scene. And thankfully, someone there was I was kind of nervous because the Yu-Gi-Oh community in my area wasn't very friendly, which is part of the reason I left. So I had some apprehension about it for Digimon, but they've all been super friendly and positive. They gave me cards to start my deck with. And then I joined your guys' Discord shortly after that. And here we are today.
Yeah, you were one of the OGs when we first started posting the Discord up that joined.
Yep, I remember the exact video is because I like doing deck profiles. Not that they were great per se at the start, but I was doing the Ragnalordmon, and you guys mentioned a win a box tournament for BT9, and that's when I joined. So
yeah, OG in the house.
OG.
So my I was about the same with Yu-Gi-Oh because I was playing around that XZs. Like that's when I kind of right before that came out is when I got back into it for a little bit, but I couldn't stick with it. That's when we got married and moved, and I didn't know anybody where we moved to, so I was like, my last hoorah, we went to a regional at Louisville with some buddies, and we had just got our apartment, and there was like 8 guys that came up from Tennessee to play, and they all stayed in the apartment, and then we drove back home.
That's crazy. Yeah. Part of it too is it's so expensive to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And Digimon, counter it, until recently, has been a relatively cheap card game, which is what I really liked. You can build most decks for under $100.
Oh yeah, that's something we've been talking about. Everything getting priced higher recently, and that's the thing with it is it's starting to get more popular. It's picking up traction.
Mm-hmm.
So that means people are after the cards now, and they're chasing after those cards. When before, the issue in the beginning with the pricing was COVID messing everything up, and then it kind of stabilized, and then the game got really cheap, and now it's got this big boom going, so everybody's going crazy.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a few offenders for like high value cards. Artificial rarity and inflation via like the promos, which have been an issue with like Raremon and a few other guys as of recently, which you can only get one per box if you buy an EX5 box. I know that's like the big issue people have right now. Other than that, like Death X and Ruin mode have been crazy, stupid expensive. And Rena from BT11. I don't like pricing Tamers into the secret rare slot because even Davis for the longest time was like a $20 card. Yeah. And now it's like a $6 card, but
yeah, it's hard to put. They want to put good stuff into the secret slots, so they'll sell the boxes. But at the same time, it kind of defeats the purpose when everybody's chasing after it. It's just people are gonna flood the market and mess it all up. But it's still great. Like you said, the community's awesome. I remember the first couple of locals that we went to. rolled up with my OG Tyrannomon deck that was just based around the red Tyrannomon, just jamming, swinging face.
Yes.
And after the tournament, one guy walked up to me. He's like, "Here, take these. They'll help your deck." And he gave me two of the secret ancient. I think it was ancient Greymon or something. He's like, "This may help." So, and he just gave them to me. I was like, "This is cool."
Yes.
So,
That's always the best. Like, I think that's something I try to keep in mind now, when it comes to new players, is try to help them as much as I can, just kind of forwarding what others
right,
do for me.
exactly.
Because it's like, we want to grow this community, because I think it's one of the better card games out there right now. Much more fun and cool art, all that stuff in comparison to some of the other ones. So definitely want to make people feel as comfortable as possible trying to get a start.
Right. Which we'll get into jump into the topic of Liberator, which is really gonna, I think, is really gonna drive the TCG outward as far as
Oh,
marketing goes.
yes, I agree with that, because, like, to be honest, I was never huge into Digimon as a kid. Like, I watched it a little bit. Like, I watched the original show. And Tentomon clearly was my favorite based off of what we'll be discussing later. But I really got into it as an adult a few years ago with my friend, and now I love it. And I'm like, it kind of needs to go the path of what Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh have been doing as of recently. Like, Yu-Gi-Oh's trying to do their own animated series based on the card lore, and Pokemon's already been a multimedia mastermind for 25 years now, since I was born, basically. And I think that the Liberator comic is a great way to expand on pre-existing Digimon lore and content, but in a different way, more similar to like the Yu-Gi-Oh anime, or like Cardfight Vanguard's anime, for example.
Right. I'm hyped for to see what they do with the Vortex Warriors
Yes.
and Witch and Lee,
Yes.
because it's one of those things that never gets explored. And I think the two decks that are coming are really going to start exploring that, because Witch and Lee, and then you got the fairy tales and all that stuff. So yeah,
Oh
I
yeah.
think they're really going to dive into that.
Yes, I'm curious too, just based off of like how I've been keeping up with it. Specifically, I'm more interested in the green deck. Terramon is my guy. He's going to be up there with Vmon, and Tentomon is like my little buddies for sure. And his whole line is sick. I like the way the deck operates based off of what I've seen so far. And then Cinderella, incredible. The whole
Yeah,
line is incredible too. Like,
I'm excited to see tokens. I like token decks.
yes, as
I
long as they
enjoy
make
that
them
kind of
more
stuff.
accessible for everybody, and then you don't have
Right.
to get them printed.
Yeah, I told Wholehearted he needed to start getting tokens made.
Oh, he
Got to
totally.
jump on that bandwagon.
Absolutely.
So do you have a typical play style when it comes to TCGs? Like, is there a certain way that you want to play?
Hmm. Kind of. I feel like, I don't want to say I'm a combo slash OTK type of person, but I feel like a lot of the decks I liked when I was younger for Yu-Gi-Oh, like Elemental Heroes and Cyber Dragons, are very go turn two, build a big board, swing over your opponent for game. And I would say like my favorite deck for Digimon is Imperial Dramon, blue green. That was the one I started with. It's my baby. Other than Blue Flare, those are my two like decks that I know the best. And Blue Flare or Blue Green Imperial is definitely in that combo category. It's all about aggressive unsuspends and swings and unsuspends and memory gain. So that's kind of the direction that I was in to start with, and kind of halfway through the year, I felt like I wanted to change it, because I've only really played blue decks. And then um, after BT13, I took a little bit of a break, and then I came back and played purple in the Lilithmon mill deck and Chaos Gallantmon, which was actually a really fun deck to play, but wasn't super relevant because Chaos Gallantmon, unfortunately, himself isn't that great of a card. There's only two, and they're both kind of mid. But Mega Digimon is really cool, and I liked the aspect of it. I transitioned it into a Millith deck, because part of the strategy was to trash my opponent's deck. So I was like, I might as well go full auto on that, and switch to Lilith, and switch to Creepymon and Ghoulmon. But I'm back in the. I've been recently in green, because there's been so many green decks coming out. Like, green is one of those colors, as well as blue, that I like to play. And I didn't really like the green decks that existed when I first started playing, because it was really just Grandis, which was too expensive for me at the time, because I didn't want to pay for the Okuamons. And then the Bloom Lord deck, which I'm also just not a fan of the play style of. So until EX5 came out, there really wasn't much in the way to look for green. But um, now that EX5 and BT15 and the advanced starter decks for Terriermon, which are incredible value, on a side note, amazing deck.
Oh yeah.
Been switching to green, although I do think green uh, has its problems, but they are fixing it with the upcoming sets.
Yeah, I'm digging the green base right now, especially with the Terriermon package. It's putting in work.
Oh yeah, everywhere. You see
Yeah,
it everywhere right now.
it is the new engine for green, so everybody's just jumping on.
Yeah, it needed it. Honestly, I feel like green, similar to like purple, right before the Beelzemon deck came out last year, was in like this weird spot where it just doesn't do enough. And then, besides just the Beelzemon deck, you got Anubismon, you got I can't even think of who else, Ruin Mode, a few, and some other strong just purple based archetypes, Belphamon, that they were really starting to focus on purple as a color, and now I feel like the same steps are being taken for green.
Yep. At least they're giving that diversity, except for black, because black seems to never really get any kind of support for anything other than little gimmicky stuff. You got
Yeah,
Digipolice, and um, before it was the all black blockers.
gosh, and
That was
Stuka.
Jordan's original deck. There, he
I've
just
always, yeah, I've always wanted to play black personally, but like you said, there's just no super great options for it. Like I started at the end of BT9, and it was like Alphamon at the time, but the Oryukins were a secret, so it was a little bit pricier than I could start out with, and then the Ragnalord deck, which I love, but it does suck. um, other than that, it's just like not a color I've really focused on, and I don't really care for how Digipolice plays as a deck. But yeah, I feel like black is another color that needs a definite facelift if it wants to stay relevant going forward with how the game is.
yeah. I think I saw something where they had said that the next set coming out was going to be on the Cross Wars manga.
Oh, really?
So a lot of people were posting that Skull Knight's going to be getting a nice little facelift.
I hope so for Josh's sake, because I know he likes to play black, and he also plays Skull Knight, Dark Knightmon, and out of all the cross decks besides Bagger Army, it's definitely on the lower tier.
Yeah. So, are there any colors that you don't prefer to play? I know you didn't really mention red or yellow. So, are those
Yeah,
kind of your eh?
pretty much. Like, I have no real issues with them per se. Like when I first started, I know like it's old news at this point, but to people for talk about yellow and how it can be kind of toxic at times, like with security control. I remember when I first, like my second time at locals, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I was playing security control with a really really good player who at my local scene tops regionals regularly, and I was like, this is the worst experience of my life. I don't know how to play this, but other than that, I think yellow has honestly really cool mechanics that are extremely unique, which is part of what makes it stand out. Um, and then I actually tried a little bit of yellow, but no deck has really caught my interest in that regard. It's not really yeah, just hasn't found a deck yet that resonates with me with yellow just yet. But red, red's fine. I just don't like. It's similar to like fire types. Like when I was a Pokemon. Well, I am a Pokemon fan, but like I was preferred water types or grass types. Just like the fire types are kind of cool, but nowhere near as much. And in that same kind of mentality, kind of transition for me with Digimon as well. Like red's fine as a color. I like what it can do. Like raid isn't one of my favorite keywords, and security tech plus is awesome. And the ability to like a lot of them have ways to shut off options and security is cool, but I don't know. It's just not a color I've really explored, or I just don't really care for it. Really, is all it is.
Yeah, you gotta wait on that Sylphimon deck. It'll come, and then
Yes,
you'll be right on board.
that's the two exactly. That's the one I'm like. It'll combine those two colors because I played a version of Sylphimon last year, and I'm like, Sylphimon's dope. So it'd be a great way to re-explore that because Shine Greymon kind of caught my interest, but then it came out in the same set as the BT12 Imperial Dramon stuff. So I was like, well, I'm gonna play this because this is
Yeah,
my deck for sure.
you gotta stick to it. That's just how it goes sometimes.
Yep. That's the
So is this the deck that you're currently playing right now, or are you kind of just playing around with it on the side?
It was like I recently put it back in the deck box because as much as I like it, it does have some major flaws, and I was getting kind of frustrated after a while playing it at locals and not having the success I wanted to from testing. But I was playing it from the moment BT15 came out up until 2 weeks ago. Um, Funny enough, I made this deck for the spring break event, but unfortunately my daughter was ill, so we had to go to the ER, and I was like, I'm canceling my plans. So I didn't get to play this build for the spring break event, but it is one that I was testing and playing for weeks on end, just at the local scene anyway. Um, so the old build I had a few different cards that were not green, but this build was what I have been sticking with up until recently.
Yeah, you get bonus points because I see Metal Tyrannomon.
Yeah, I figured once you saw that, you'd be like, okay, we got
You know,
some metal Tyranno.
listen, that Metal
He's
Tyranno's
yes,
insane.
he's solid. He's a good card. Like I just know him from experience playing against Machine Dramon. I'm like, this card, this inheritable is super annoying in combination with that deck.
Yo,
It works really well in theory with how this playstyle works, because for the viewers, I'm sure people know by now regarding the insectoid playstyle, but they finally, after like I think EX1 was the last time Tentomon got any new cards for its line. Finally, or the starter deck for, I can't remember which came first, but I wasn't playing during either time, so it was like in an awkward position. But they finally got new support in BT15, and they've added for them specifically, which is going to be expanded on for like all insectoids going forward, from what I've seen with all the recent leaks, is while they're suspended, they're unaffected by Digimon effects, which is a very, very useful
it
effect
is.
in this current day and age.
It is extremely helpful.
Yes, because then, I mean, I feel like a lot of decks don't run as many options, and if they do, they're really dedicating it to like the training cards or like mem boosts, whatever like generic staples you're seeing. Other than that, I know some I feel like decks are going to start taking a transition to being more option heavy, at least in theory, I would think. But yes, it really pigeonholes your opponent into a spot where they either have to have something big enough to swing over you and risk a potential blast or extra DP increases, or they have to use their expensive option cards to get rid of it from the field.
Yeah, we've kind of touched on that a couple of times. That back in the day, who cared what an option was? Half of the ones that started out when the game started didn't have an effect whenever you hit it in the security. It was just a card.
I noticed
But
that. I was
but
like, because I
now
saw,
they're adding all these extra effects in, and you're like, well, it's kind of a good security bomb, and I get to use it if I draw into it. So it's kind of getting more useful.
oh yeah. I honestly, most of the time, I want my good option cards in security, but I think the way I play my ratios, it's unrealistic to think that way. But it is weird. I noticed that too, because like Gravity Crush and Blinding Ray are two examples of like option cards that like there's zero cost memory gains for green or for red and yellow, but unlike Hammer Spark, they don't give you a effect in the security stack. So it's kind of funny looking back and how far the game has come in 4 years.
Yeah, it's definitely changing a lot, and more changes to come. But I'm enjoying it. I'm not getting to play as much, but I enjoy getting to see all the creativity and deck builds and stuff.
Yes, it's been fun for sure. This funny enough, this was one of those decks that like for me, I kind of had to build from scratch because there really wasn't a lot of reference for it. Like I know DigiGuy touched on it last week with net decking, which I personally don't have an issue with. I think looking at other people's lists for inspiration is always useful because you may be missing something. So, but this deck didn't really have that. I've been literally playtesting this build since like October when Project Brazil came out because I was like, I now have the chance to play it without going to locals and play stuff that hasn't come out yet. So this is a great opportunity to be able to test that, and it'll definitely change. BT16 brings a whole new wave of insects that are even better than what this line is because at the moment it's I wouldn't even call it like rogue personally, just because it's just an awkward spot is really what it is. Like it has some of the pieces, but not all of them. Like Tyrant Kabuterimon is going to be incredible. Literally, I've just been dubbing it like Green Machine Dramon because it's going to be just as sticky as that deck, if not more so. And you'll be able to, I don't know, just have more insects as a option for you, even though the deck outside of the level 3s and Metal Tyrannomon are all insects in this build. But definitely, it's been fun. It is really rewarding to get your redirects off because the Metal Tyrannomon, I forgot to mention that still. Its all turns effect is the real reason I have it in here because unfortunately it is a 4 cost, which is really steep for a level 5. But I know like Metal Tyrannomon and the whole Tyrannomon deck's really good at reducing their Digivolve costs. But and sometimes its effect, I have enough memory to make its effect go off while in play. But the problem is with the Modimon egg, it turns off the end of turn attack because it's not an insect. So it's better safer than sorry unless I have the memory to go into it. Funny enough, too, in my old build, I had the starter deck tie that came out with the first wave of ace cards in those starter decks, and because it low key kind of works with the deck as a mem setter, but its secondary effect is really what it's there for, to be able to draw cards as well as give you DP increases. And Metal Tyrannomon just inherently being black and green. If my opponent had the board set up, I could swing over multiple things for sure, or at least stun things temporarily.
Right. So this, how is the one Pomemon? Because I've been working on Tyrannomon and I haven't got to play it a lot, but I've just been kind of running through scenarios in my head. And right now I have Pomemon at 1 in my list, but I'm debating on 1 or 2.
Yeah. Honestly, so far it was kind of impactful. I really put it in there since this was for spring break to really play against pretty much every green deck because every single one of them have ways to play Digimon by effects. But it was also in there because I played against Sukamon and got completely destroyed. It was not even a contested match. They literally had turn in the game in 2 turns because they can just on deletion gain a bunch of Digimon back to their field. So the Palmon definitely has been impactful. The only reason I have it at 1 right now for me is because one of my champions in the deck is Sneemon from the starter deck 9 for with the Imperial Dramon stuff that came out a year and 2 years ago. And so it shuts off his effect because he's a really clutch card, honestly. Very strong card. I think it's underrated personally when it comes to insects.
That's definitely one that I was going to point out because whenever I was building my Tyrannomon deck, that was one of the, this is a 1 cost Digivolution. Let me jump on that. And when I delete a Digimon, I gain a memory. Okay.
Super good. I remember when I saw some other people's lists, I wasn't completely sold on it personally. I was just like, it's all right. But then I realized, well, it does make it cheaper to go up the ladder and potentially puts my opponent at 1 memory. Its mem gain effect is only your turn, but I mean, if we pair it correctly, we're going to gain the effect anyway, so it's not really a huge deal. It's just similar to like why Vegemon or Weedmon is running Bloomlord just to get up your stack quicker. He's kind of there for a similar reason. He's similar to Kabuterimon anyway with his inheritable.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I really like the Metal Tyranno. He's a beast. He's an on play beast.
Yeah.
Like even just slamming him down whenever the board is full, you just gotta commit.
Honestly, he can. I mean, nowadays, since like in the last few sets, Green has been, because his is just like during the unsuspend phase as opposed to unsuspending at all until the end of your opponent's turn. He's been power crept just a little bit, but he's still really useful because unless they have effects, they're not getting out of that state anyway. But yes, Metal Tyrannomon, I kind of want to bump its ratio, to be honest, because it is the one I prefer out of the 3 level 5s in the deck, being him, Mega Kabuteri Ace, or Rhino Kabuterimon. But they all have their uses for different scenarios per se. But Metal Tyranno, because the older build that I was playing wasn't super aggressive. This deck just in nature isn't. I guess I'd classify it as a mid-range play style because you want to really build your stack with Herc and then sit on him and hope your opponent can either kill him with like a expensive option and also have your Izzy set up to redirect, or multiple level 4s to blast ace into Mega Kabuterimon, which is kind of difficult. Build this ironically, for being bugs, they can't swarm the field super well. But yeah, that's he's been a debate because his effect is all turns, but I know they showed off a promo Mega Kabuterimon that's blue-green and has the same inheritable all turns, and it has evade and the same suspended protection effect as the rest of the Tintamon line does. So he'll definitely he'll be replaced by that card once that comes
Yeah.
out.
I really like the all turns. My Tyranno build has Marvin, so I can give Russ Tyranno blocker.
Yes.
So and it's all turns. So whenever he blocks something and it dies, you're trashing security.
Mm-hmm.
And then with Rusty Ace, you're trashing 2 security. Then I'm gonna pierce for 3 more checks, and you're done for. It's just.
And Rust has his ways to unsuspend. So yeah, you're cooked.
Yeah.
You're cooked.
I think I've got 3 of the Metal Tyranno, 2 of the old Metal Tyranno just because of his evolution cost, and then 2 of the new Rapidmon.
That Rapidmon's crazy.
Yeah,
very strong card, very annoying card. But
D-Digivolve's insane right now with Ace in play, and then him sticking as long as you got a green tamer in play. So I'll hang out for a while.
Gotta love it. Green needs all the support it can get, honestly, out of all the colors. And I mean, similar to these guys, Rust Tyrannomon needs some new support. He's got the new Ace, which is a really good card.
Listen, these new Liberator decks are not 2 separate Liberator decks. It's all Tyrannomon support.
I mean, it really is. Like, that green Shoto Tamer is useful in like so many decks, and that green egg is incredible. Like, I've seen people talk about Bloom Lord about it, unfortunately, already, but I mean, any deck that can digivolve on green eggs is gonna gain some value off of that effect.
Yeah, I posted that one meme the other day, and it was like Taiga and Tyrannomon talking to Shoto and his Terramon. Like, you're trying to come in here and do what we were doing, but better.
Pretty much, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Maybe they kind of, I feel like, I was thinking about it the other day, speaking of Tyrannomon, because I know they showed off the EX Tyrannomon for the starter deck, and weirdly enough, it's a cross Digivolve. So I was like, I don't know if it would happen, because I know most of it's based off of either pre-existing stuff other than Liberator recently. But I was like, to reinvent the Tyrannomon playstyle, I think it'd be kind of cool if they did commit to like a cross style and have a Taiga with save and be able to like Digicross up into Rust a little bit easier. But I don't really know in practice how that would actually operate. But it had me thinking once I saw that.
I think it's going to help get that level 5 established a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he has barrier is great too.
That's a great effect. That's a great effect. I love all these new keywords they've slowly been adding in for each color to really just make them stand out, but also have like the protection that some of these decks need. Like barrier basically operates as jamming for yellow. And then like partition, that's another new keyword that's coming out for the DNA decks. That's going to be incredibly helpful with like recovery. So, and I'm trying to remember what else there is. Vortex. I can't remember the name of the yellow one, but all such great stuff. So I'm just down with all of these new keywords to really make each color a bit more distinct, because as of recently, we're starting to see a lot more keywords transition across all colors. So these kind of
everything's getting a little bit of everything. So it's kind of just giving more identities, and the whole point of Digimon is they can digivolve into all kinds of stuff. So it's not specific to stuff, but everybody has their favorite flavor, and it's just giving people the option of you can play this meta deck, or you can play your flavor of Digimon however you want to.
Flavor of the month.
Have fun with it.
Because it is weird, like you said. I feel like personally, Digimon is getting pretty archetypal. I guess tribal might be the correct word. because you've been seeing a lot more black box text where they certain Digimon only digivolve on their eggs for free, or their lower cost rookies or champions for a lower price. Otherwise, you're paying 1 or 3 or 4 memory to do what you need to do, which isn't necessarily bad per se, but it does kind of stray away from what I think was more so charming when I first
Right.
started, because it's like you can literally build a deck and just put, like, I had Sylphimon digivolving into the yellow Greymon, War Greymon, because I was like, I can do it, and they're both yellow. So, and you're kind of seeing less of that as time's gone on.
Right. Well, Tyrannomon doesn't have that rookie, so it's kind of you just pick a rookie. I in my head, I've probably built like 5 or 6 different variations of the bottom end of Tyrannomon, just because you
It's
can
tough.
go a red route with 3 or 4 different rookie styles, and or you can go a green route with 3 or 4 different rookie styles, and just kind of build the stack how you want it. But I think uh, going back to the X Tyrannomon, I think that's going to add into the whole rushing out that level 5, because Tyrannomon is yeah, he costs 5, but he's got pretty good effect. You're getting a free tamer. Um, and it's just going to add to the. You're not really playing a whole lot of rookies. You don't want to build a huge stack. You want to get to that top end
That
faster.
rust. Yep. That's, I feel that as a, this Herc deck honestly could benefit from the exact same thing, and then Imperial Dramon more so could definitely will be benefiting from that for sure. So totally, it's kind of nice when you have decks where you don't have to rely on a rookie, like, or a rookie lineup to get set up. Like Blue Flare is similar too. I have just the 8 Gaussmons, and then the rest is level 4s and level 5s to get what I need going.
Yeah. Or you can go the route with Ukamons now.
Yeah, Ukamons are, it's an interesting card. Like, I remember when I first saw it, I was like, this card's kind of cool, but I've been seeing it a lot more in use, and I'm like, I definitely see the value now for sure, but it's hard to get it. The one thing that's so hard nowadays is deck space for certain cards, and I feel like
Yeah.
maybe I'm underestimating it, but I just find myself valuing other cards over Ukamon for my decks. But it does help you cycle in those rookies a lot quicker,
Yeah. This is Mimi on steroids.
pretty much. And then there's another one too, but I think it's just a searcher in BT16.
Yeah, I don't remember what the new one does, um, but there's a lot of decks like the Numamon and stuff that try to start out at that champion level. And hey, Tyrannomon may end up going to that step, and just
I think
having the Ukamon base with maybe a splash of something to help, because it's not bad to hard slam a 5 and get a free tamer and on board or whatever you need to do.
honestly, it's funny you mentioned that too, because I was like, the first time ever last week, I played against the Diva deck from EX5 with like Fang Longmon and the rest of the 4 Sovereigns. And that's a deck I have no experience playing, but I know the whole strategy is to play level 5s into your egg area, or just hard drop them. And that's what my opponent did. They literally just dropped a 7 cost level 5, or like, your move. And I'm sitting here like, I know what's to come with this, because they've got 5 Ace Digimon in this deck between the
Yeah,
4 Sovereigns and then the Mega Garga Ace. I'm sitting here like, this is really weird. Like, I was kind of, I was blown away by it personally. I did not know how to play against it when I started. So I was like, it was nice experience to see it firsthand. But that's an example of just, sometimes you just got to commit to dropping the 7 cost level 8 or level 5 and see if your opponent can deal with it. Because if they don't, you can come back next turn and start doing what you need to do.
yeah, you can jump in there quick. Who cares how much memory they got?
Especially in early game.
So the new starter decks, we got the Vortex Guardian, right? Guardian Vortex. What is it?
I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, Guardian Vortex. I might end up having to get both of these decks when they come out, because I'm gonna need cards from both of them.
Pretty much. I plan on getting them too. Even though I don't plan on playing the Cinderella deck, it might be the yellow one that gets me excited for playing that color, because I love the character. Super sick. But
Yeah,
I'm definitely a bigger fan of the green deck for sure.
yeah. So the Vortex should have been a Rust Tyranno keyword, but we'll let Gelmon and his whole thing have their little Vortex.
I think we can find a way to get it in there eventually. Start
Yeah,
petitioning to Bandai.
We'll make it happen. Tyrannomon will have his day.
You will.
Who knows when it'll be, but and I'll have all this video proof of me always supporting him.
Yup. All the way from the beginning.
So Vortex, at the end of your turn, this Digimon may attack an opponent's Digimon. This Digimon may attack with this effect on the turn it was played. So it's getting Blitz and Rush at the end of turn, but you can only attack your opponent's Digimon. Which really, with the deck, you want to get into piercing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think
and I've always said
has it, or rookies. I think it's the rook. Yeah, Muchomon. He's the one who's got it.
Muchomon and the other one here both have piercing. So piercing has always been that overlooked kind of thing. Like when Jordan was playing his black blockers, I'm like, okay, well, how do I deal with black blockers? You got to pierce.
Yep.
You got to get rid of that security, and you're taking control of the board. So,
oh yeah,
it's always been that kind of control play.
Yes, I agree, especially against a deck like that where it's like the whole purpose is to have a board full of guys that can stop attacks. It's like you can stop the attack, but I'm big enough to just do the damage anyway. So you got to decide. At that point, it makes them freeze because they're like, well, I guess I could just attack with these guys next turn, but you might have ways to deal with them anyway. So, but
yeah, you gotta chip at that security and get it down, and then take that last swing.
And it helps with Tyrannomon because they always have that trashing security. You gotta have that. That's one of the green keywords that has, for the most part, stayed pretty exclusive to green, other than a few red cards that have it, which I appreciate because green needs its light in the day. And part of my problem, which it kind of ties into Vortex as a keyword, because I really love the keyword raid or not raid, excuse me, rush and blitz at the same time. And I know that Tamer kind of helps you get around having to attack a Digimon, which has always been, I feel like, kind of the issue with green, since it's so battle focused and there are so many protection effects nowadays to undermine the whole point of it. It really, they need, like, the way they're handling this deck. Argomon deck is another example of green getting like an evolution in its play style. It's still suspending stuff. It's still kind of gaining memory, but it's more so about removal as it is as instead of just the battle focused stuff. Because like I want to play Diarbitmon, but it's so battle focused that it can really flop on its face if your opponent just plays around it properly or just has whatever they need. And I know Rust Tyrannomon's in that same category. It's super battle focused, and we're in a meta and a day and age.
Give me just a second. Sorry, this started bugging out on me. All right, I think we're good. But yeah, the suspension, and I played Hearthstone a little bit, and I always liked the ramp. So
Hearthstone's a fun game.
The quick memory gain, reduced cost. But yeah, the Shoto lets you suspend the tamer to redirect the attack to the Digimon or player.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's definitely one of those partner decks where you got to have your tamer out. Just kind of like Tyrannomon getting piercing, you got to have them out there to be able to do the thing.
Yeah, very true. But thankfully, and then the good thing about this, it doesn't necessarily state you have to use Vortex. So, like you said, basically Tyrannomon support as well. So it allows you to do some of the things you want to do with your dinosaurs, your big old boys, and translate it into something more than just being able to attack at a Digimon. Because I do think, though, I'm pretty sure in order to make it go off, your opponent still has to have a Digimon in play in order for Vortex to proc, and then you use Shoto, if I'm not mistaken. I know it's had some weird rulings discussed over the last month.
Well, they gave the BT 14 Tyrannomon, he's got the effect to, at the end of your turn, he can attack an opponent's Digimon.
Yes.
Like, that's his inheritable. So I feel like they were leaning towards that, and then they're like, oh, let's just slap a new Jurassic World Digimon on it instead.
Yes. I mean, word on it too, and then it works perfectly with your deck. You can search it, you can play it out with your Tyrannomons, but at least it's a generic tamer that you can still find use for in the deck. And
I don't know if my internet's bugging out or what.
but I definitely love this line. I hope it's not.
Might be mine.
Be mine. I have a little like this long line that connects from my house to the not the generator, the transformer in the backyard. So it's like the wind can. We've been having storms all day too, so the wind could very well be messing with it.
Yeah. So the where is the that was the mega right there.
Yeah,
Zephigamon.
Zefka. I don't know how to pronounce it yet either, but he's awesome. Grand Galemon looks like Garudamon, but even tougher. But this guy, I'm very excited to put it in practice because he's already. I think he's a really strong card anyway. Unfortunately, similar to the Cinderellamon, they both are 11,000 DP megas, which bothers me to know. If they had strong effects, you make them slightly weaker attack wise. But nowadays, it's like, well, you're slapping on really strong effects, and 12,000 DP is the baseline in my opinion nowadays for megas. So I found it a little weird that they made it a little weaker, but I know the whole line increases DP anyway. But still a very strong and very cool card for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely play it.
I saw the there's another Syndromon that dropped for the set after the starters come out.
Oh, did they show it off?
There was one of them. Let me
Oh, it might have been the I can't remember Chaperomon, the level 5.
Yeah, there's that one, but they dropped the new one, and I don't remember where I seen it. I think I saw it on Reddit. Maybe it was the Shapiromon. Said something about they were talking about how their DP was a lot lower, but the yellow deck focuses on reducing that DP by 3,000, which effectively is increasing its DP by 3,000. And then the Vortex one has the additional DP bonus. So they're kind of making up for that with their effects, but it's still not exactly what you want to see.
Yeah, and it is the first wave. I'll give it some slack that it's their first iterations of each card, so they want to like maybe. I don't think 1,000 DP really would make that huge of a difference, but I say that as if 1,000 DP doesn't make a difference at times, but in my mind, I think when they show off the EX7 versions of both of them, I feel like they're going to be ace cards, especially since like that's the focus of the game right now, or at least I'd imagine they're going to be ace Digimon for both Cinderella and at least you'll have two options to go into relatively quickly, because some other decks, even when they get starter decks, have to wait a long time to get a second wave of support.
Yeah, there's a set that comes out right after it that they're adding some cards into. So, and you need that to build an actual solid deck. You're either gonna need two of the starter decks, or you're gonna get a kind of second wave.
Yeah,
because you can't play just 4 level 5s and 4 level 4s. You gotta kind of keep it in sync.
Yep, definitely. We'll be missing some pieces until EX7 comes out, which I don't remember the release date for it, but I know we get the starter decks on the tail end of summer, but I assume that EX7 comes out shortly after that. They got a lot of stuff coming out in a short period of time for us.
Yeah, definitely diving into that release after release after release.
It's overwhelming, honestly. Like,
Yeah, it's gonna get overwhelming, but then we'll be in sync. So
What I'm other curious about too, when it comes to like the Liberator stuff, because we only have like that one when they did like Gen Digicon, whatever it was called back in March, early March, and they showed off like the basically um, intro to Liberator, and they showed Shoto and I can't remember her name, Arisa, that's her name. There it is.
yeah,
And then they showed off like the two dudes who played each other at nationals with Galacticmon and Wargreymon. Um, I know at the very least they showed off a Black Imperial Dramon in the some of the art to promote it, and like a cyborg controlling it or something along those lines potentially. So for me, I'm hoping as we learn more about EX7, we might see some red purple Imperial Dramon support. That would be nice.
I
Galacticmon
think we
seems like
definitely will.
something. Like the fact Galacticmon's getting something is pretty cool because that's another black deck that it admittedly is gimmicky, but it has a pretty cool big boss monster at the end that can be kind of sticky to deal with.
Yeah, I think Liberator is gonna be pretty cool, and it. See, we middle of last year, not long after the tournament, we were talking about doing a Digimon D&D campaign, and that was kind of my idea. Was oh yeah, they're gonna be kind of like tamers, but they've got the decks, and they're gonna use the cards from their deck to be able to do this stuff. And then boom, Liberator's coming.
I dig it. Basically, like I can't remember the name of the character class, but they're basically because I remember thinking about it like if I wanted to play a Pokemon trainer, you're basically like a beast tamer or something like that.
Yeah,
So you could basically operate like that. That's funny. It kind of reminds me of Digimon Survive even too, because I feel like that's low key like similar to what you're explaining, even though they're not in card form. They're like
right.
actually with them, but same core concept to me.
It's gonna be cool to see how they take it and how they bring it into the world.
Yes. So I'm looking forward to that. I don't know if did they show off Tyrannomon as one of the guys? I know they showed off some really funky
They so they showed off the guy that lost in the tournament. They showed like a blurry image of a Digimon that was the rookie, and they never really said what the rookie was. And I promise you that if it is a Tyranno rookie, I'll lose my mind.
War Greymon deck. So that would be great. I don't because Agumon is his actual rookie, right? He was the original Digivolved form of Agumon.
Yeah, he was supposed to be the original, and they didn't. That it was the same time as Pokemon, so they didn't want to digivolve this orange guy into this red guy and be like, "Why is this doing this?" and not be able to explain it,
Oh yeah.
especially for a lead. And then it went from there.
Poor Tyrannomon. In an alternate universe, he is the main character of the original series.
Yep, it's out there. It exists.
It does. Other than that, I saw since we're talking about like Vortex Warriors, and I remember I was looking at it the other day because I also saw that Zephagamon also has Magic Warrior or Magic Knight in its keywords. And I went to the DigiDev site to look at what other Digimon have that exact same keyword. And I know we saw Hexablau already. So we've seen him just in the art, but also he has the exact same keyword. So in my mind, he is going to be receiving some new support, which I know a lot of people are a really big fan of him. He's a cool looking dude. So he kind of deserves some representation again, since like his play style is very not obsolete because it's still blue to its core, but his cards he needs a new wave of support. So it's cool to see that. But I'm not really sure what else qualifies as a Magic Knight, like lore wise. But in the card game, it's just those two guys right now.
Yeah, so I think the Magic Knights right now are the Medieval Gallant,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
Hexablau, and then Zephagamon. So I feel like they've each got their own little. You got the Wind Spirits and all that stuff, but you also have Witchenly, which is a whole different
Mm-hmm.
realm. And Jordan can go deep into the Witchenly thing. Um, but Medieval Gallantmon is from Witchenly, and then Hexablau is said to bounce between the two worlds. So how they're going to tie all this in together, and with the fable walls, all these puppets and stuff, really, it gives you that kind of witchingly vibe.
Oh yeah, I honestly didn't know about any of that until you guys started talking about it in the leaks channel because I didn't know there were separate realms from the regular digital world that most of these guys exist in. So
Right. It
it's
it
cool.
was a it was a shoot off uh of Digimon trying to create the Digivice that a girl would want to play. So they made it more like
Oh, gotcha.
potions and spells and that kind of thing. But they still had the characters in it, and that kind of Wizardmon is from Witchenly, and there's not a whole lot of Digimon that's from it, but I feel like Liberator is gonna be diving into some Witchenly lore, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, because I think like yeah, to kind of multiverse their world because it's all digital. It's just like accessing Google versus accessing Firefox in my mind. So it'll be cool. I'd love to see Medieval Gallantmon get more than just the single card from EX4 that is not that good. So it'd be cool if they expanded on him and made a green version of like the Guillemon line.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see Guillemon in green.
As a Vegamon, but um, it's cool to see some representation for some Digimon that you typically would not expect. Because I know people get fatigued with the original Digidestined or Greymon or Garurumon or whoever it may be. So it's kind of cool to see some like EX5 to me is one of the most unique looking sets. Speaking of like recent ones that give like representation to Digimon I never really heard of.
Yeah, it kind of gives you a different view.
Long forgotten guys that really deserve the limelight.
Yeah, everybody's excited for Doggymon finally getting a card.
Yes, finally, he deserves it. And Pandamon too. I
Yeah,
think Pandamon got his first card.
Pandamon got a card too. So Overclock, let's touch on it real quick. Overclock
Yes,
puppet trait. At the end of your turn, by deleting one of your tokens or one of your other Digimon with the puppet trait, this Digimon may attack a player without suspending. And then it has blocker.
that's gonna love it. But similar to like Superior Mode Arrestor Dramon, it's definitely gonna cause some ruling confusions on its launch. But um, I love it, especially since like it plays into the whole strategy. The tokens thing is going to be really interesting because I know Diaboromon is kind of focused around a similar concept with puppet or with tokens plus blocking, and then the ability to remove said tokens to protect your original Digimon. So I think it gives yellow. You could see a purple deck or a blue deck that uses puppets that utilizes the overclock mechanic, but I dig it. I love both the keywords for both these decks.
Yeah, I'm excited to see familiars. I noticed on Syndromon when they first released it, the little moss, and I'm like, oh, we got tokens coming. We got something coming.
Yeah, yeah. I like them in the artwork too. They're like little. I know we saw the mice, but in the one that they just showed off, I see that she has like little puppet birds too. So
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I'm for the new X Tyrannomon. Got armor purge and barrier. Digicross with the Tyrannomon.
great.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Armor Purge is a great addition too. I feel like that fits so well with X Tyrannomon since he's like a puppeted shell. I don't know lore wise how it fits, but he is a puppet inside of a like a
yeah,
dinosaur inside of a
it's a
puppet. So.
Numamon inside of kind of like Monzimon. Uh,
Oh, really?
yeah, it's I want to say it was either a Numamon or a Raremon inside of the puppet to Digivolve, which is why Raremon is the other Digivolution for X Tyranno.
That's so interesting. Like, hopefully they reprint that Raremon, or at least print another one, because That is
Yeah,
so specific. Like, and I don't even know if you'd really run that card in the deck, but
I I can see it. I'm waiting for the overclock that's not a puppet, and it's gonna be a machine, and Machine Drum boys are gonna just lose their minds.
I think you cut out there for a second.
Now, the machine when overclock drops its puppet or its machine trait, Machine
Oh yeah,
Dramon, machine players are gonna lose their mind when they get that Machine Dramon that can block and attack without unsuspended, and then it's just gonna be.
not wish that into existence. I already struggle enough against that deck.
It's coming. If it has machine or cyborg in its traits, it's Machine Dramon.
hmm I will say too, even going back to like the still discussing these Liberator decks, I love these reprints too. Like both have specific alts featuring said Digimon, and not that they're too expensive to get a hold of, but I know for the longest time, memory boosts kind of fluctuated in value because they were kind of a necessary card a year and a half, 2 years ago. But I like that we're getting these cards very quickly, and then the scramble cards, those are sick too. Very interesting new um, generic staple option card you're going to see that any deck can run potentially.
Yeah, those scrambles are insane. I was watching I want to say it was East's video about how to use
Mhm.
them, and
Yep.
man, those plays are crazy for the start of your turn.
Yeah. I saw the exact same video and I was like, wow, I didn't think about it in this aspect, but you can literally get a full you can get a whole bunch of effects to proc off before your main phase even starts, and you can just go into your full combo potentially.
Yep.
So I know people are saying they want to limit them already, but I don't think Bandai would do that because A, they just released them, and B, I don't know how impactful they'll be for every single deck since it so not every deck utilizes them to their fullest, in my opinion. So you'll still see them nonetheless, but we'll have to wait and see how impactful they really are.
It's going to be one of those cards where you can't really do anything other than straight out ban it, because if you're going to put it at one, everybody's just going to play the one. Uh, if you need that combo to pop off, everybody's going to play the one.
Mm-hmm. That's the hard part too, because now you start prioritizing which of these generic, I guess I just call them training cards or boost cards, because now we've got four of them or three of them. I mean, you got the memory boosts, you got the training cards, and now you got the scramble cards. So you really
Yep.
got to pick and choose your battles there, which one works best for your playstyle or what your deck really needs to prioritize. So
Yeah.
I think it'll be a fun game deck building theory for everybody.
Yep. So, how do you feel about the direction? We'll start wrapping things up. How do you feel about
Yeah,
the direction of the game with the merge? Um, yeah, like you said, your Kabuterimon deck, you built it yourself, so you're gonna get to do that a lot more without reference to anything.
yeah,
Uh,
that should be pretty interesting. I think everything at the exact same time. The problem is, I think if they want to avoid with the the Japanese form, the big one that everyone discusses, but I also think of Shoutmon Cross 4 as another example of like a really overpowered card. It's like Bandai needs to get a lot better with their R&D team and make sure that these cards are vetted a lot more closely. Otherwise, you're going to see those oppressive tier zero formats everywhere, and you might potentially see players leaving. I don't think that's going to be the case. I'm always optimistic about it per se, but that's one risk you have to keep in mind. Other than that, I mean, I like the challenge, and there's plenty of ways, even if you don't want to commit to it at locals, because for me, I only get to go every so often, and I don't get all that much time. So I want to make sure the deck I take um, works to the degree I'm looking for. But um, it should be interesting because Japanese and international slash American players have always had different play styles across every card game. So I think it's a regional thing / mentality thing between us and them. So even though we'll have access to everything, I think you have the potential to see much more variety when it comes to deck building.
Yeah, I think the big difference, the big separator is the best of one and best of three.
Hmm.
And when you have that variety of, well, I can always come back, or I only get to play this once, you're going to build your deck a lot different.
Yep, definitely.
So,
I agree with that for the longest time. They
and
were a best of one format.
there's a chance that they'll swap it to best of one. I know everybody's complaining about these camp tournaments and stuff like that, but whenever you've got 300 players, best of three versus One Piece and DBZ and all these other card games doing best of ones, your rounds go from a 20-minute round to a 45-minute round plus overtime because a lot of decks go into time. It's hard to fit as many games into a tournament that size.
Yeah, especially too. Oh, I think he's there. We go. I agree with that, especially since like you said, best of three format versus best of one, and even then, just playing like 4 or 5 rounds. Like I think the longest tournament I've ever played was when we did the mental health tournament last year. We did like 6 rounds, and that was super exhausting and best of three format. So I can only imagine for the regional events and nationals. I know they play like 10 rounds sometimes.
Yeah.
So and 2 games apiece. That's a mental that's a not only it's that's a mental thing for sure. So I can understand it when it comes to that. And I also heard specifically when it comes to like why Japan has best of one formats, it's like people are constantly on the move, so they try to make them like the card shops try to get as many people to play as many games as in a very small amount of time. So that's why like a lot of card games there are best of one format. When I found that out, I was like, that's really interesting. Versus
Yeah,
here,
they're pumping people in and out. Like they have communities for all the card games. Like there's still people that are playing Duel Masters over there,
that's
uh,
crazy. Yeah, and
and
like battle
that
spirits too.
get in, get your 3-4 rounds in, and get out. We got other players coming in.
Hmm. I think it's pretty crazy, honestly. Like it's so interesting when you make that point in comparison to like the U.S., where they try multiple times to get some of these games over and they just fail. We're not as fast paced as a society as Japan, especially since it's a much smaller uh, country than us. But it's pretty wild. They'll have support for every single card game out there. But I
Yeah,
think I think Digimon's going in a good direction. I just think they have to be very mindful with how they design cards and make sure that they play test them a bit. Not that I don't think that they're not, but I feel like at the same time you got to be more mindful of the effects you're giving things and prevent as
yeah.
much long term and widespread issues as possible.
They definitely need a community of players that are just go in and let me break this card. That's their mindset. Let me break this deck and say, here's our new set. Try to break it. Tell us what's wrong with it. We'll do adjustments and go from there.
Hmm. Quickly as possible to make as much money as possible on it. So I want to think that they'll take their time with it, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see once that actually happens next year.
Yep. So, if you got anything to plug, go ahead and shoot it. I know you're on TikTok. If you got anywhere else to post on,
No, I don't. And actually ended up taking down my TikTok still exists, but I kind of deleted it for a while just because like I wanted to reset mentally. But you can always follow me at GuapoGremlin on TikTok. I haven't posted in a minute, but I love posting deck profiles when I can or discussing new leaks, whatever it may be. Um, but that's really the only place I'm active right now.
yeah. If you guys want to jump in the Discord, you can see his art that he's been posting.
Yeah,
That mat that you
yeah,
posted looks sick.
appreciate it. Yeah, it's starting to get back into that a little bit too. I might open potential commissions for it. I don't know. Other than that, I guess I'm repping my self-made T-shirt. So
That's
maybe I'll
awesome.
start up with something there. But yeah,
Go
feel free
for it.
to. I'm
I'm
always active in the server too. So if people need to I'm pretty much always on there with Justin and Tomo.
Yeah. So, and you got Wholehearted. You can hit him up and find out his path because he's getting there and he can give you the good direction.
Yeah, I've been seeing him pop up everywhere on Facebook and everything too, and other my Discord groups. So I'm happy for him. He does some really good stuff.
Yeah. Alex, thanks for hopping on. Thanks for joining the server whenever we did our mental health tournament and hanging out. It's great that you're in the server. You help a lot of people out and love it. Thanks for being in the community.
Absolutely. I think I've said it a few times already, but I appreciate the space that you guys created for us. Like, this is the best way I interact with the card game in my life. Like, I could do it on a daily basis if need to, and everybody's able to help or play. I wish we got to play more games on the weekends, but I know everyone's lives have gotten a lot busier. So, but appreciate the space you guys built for us. Everybody, if you're listening, you should join the group. Lots of great guys in here, willing and happy to help you out, play test, whatever it may be.
Yeah. All right, guys. This has been the Security Check podcast with Alex talking about Liberator and his deck. Thanks for listening. Keep slinging that cardboard.
Oh, yeah.